afternoon, Khalid. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks, Paul. How are you?
Very good. And what a beautiful setting for this.
Nice, beautiful day in Priory Park.
Yeah.
The tennis and the trees and the sunshine. It's really nice.
It makes everything feel really lovely, doesn't it? Nice people's atmospheres, really good sort of buzzing, good feeling.
100%, yeah. Nice breeze.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not too hot, especially when we've got to go and run around a tennis court shortly.
We've got that planned, yeah.
Which we're going to talk more about why we do the tennis shortly.
Sure.
But for the benefit of our audience today, obviously I know you've been playing tennis over the last 6 months, I think now. But give us some background and tell us about your origin story.
Yeah, so my name's Dr. Khalid Mujahid. I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon by speciality, so that means operating on your heart and lungs. And I started off in Southend actually. I went to Westfield High School for Boys and then went to Birmingham University and then qualified in 2007, so about 17 years ago. And I wanted to do something hard and challenging and found myself drawn to the clockwork of your body, which is beneath your breastbone. So everything going on there is what I was really fascinated with, and everything going on the insides. I still am. Yeah, it's still very fascinating for me.
You come from a family of the doctor side of it, because for the benefit again of the audience, your father is my GP. And that's why he invited me to come and play tennis.
No, that's right.
So it was in your blood, would you say, or is it?
Yeah. So I think I naturally gravitated towards medicine because my dad was a GP. He wanted to do urology first, but then became a GP during the 90s due to certain glass ceilings in the NHS at that time. And I think I saw him at work. I went to see him at work as well, and I really liked that side of things. And I think once I started work, that's when I really enjoyed being a doctor. My sister's a GP, and one other sister is a doctor as well. So I've got 3 younger sisters, and one sister's a dentist. So I think we're quite a healthcare oriented family as well.
And mum,
she's at home. She's looking after everyone else.
Yeah, so she just makes sure that the clock ticks in the right direction.
Right. Yeah, she's the glue that holds everyone together.
Yeah. And so where did you? So you started schooling here. Where did you do your university?
At Birmingham University.
Right.
University in the West Midlands. That was in graduated in 2007.
And what was going through in those? Was that very challenging?
It was challenging for me to get into uni, so I didn't get in first time, went in through clearing, and actually in university was fine. I found myself not passing the exams, but everything again was last minute revision for me. But I think I found the work a lot easier once I started working with a doctor. It's like driving. I think it's difficult to pass your test, but you actually only start learning once you start driving.
Yeah. Everyone's like everything, isn't it? Did you have to go, because I know you do heart and lung, don't you?
Yeah.
Was there stepping stones to get to where you are today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So first we do 2 years foundation training, and that's the good thing about the system in the UK. Other places you enter speciality training straight away, whereas in the UK you're given a good selection of different specialities to dip your toes in, so you get a good feel of different specialities and experience in those specialities before you start specialist training. So I did diabetes, endocrine, thyroid, breast, and renal medicine, and then A&E and anaesthetic. So I got to experience all of those before I started my core surgical training. That was in Coventry, and spent 2 years there. Then I entered a selection program to get into cardiothoracic surgical training, and I spent 10 years in London doing that. That was quite competitive to get into, but yeah, so London was an experience. It's quite baptism of fire. I felt a little bit of sink or swim, and
because of the competitive side.
Yeah, it's a little bit, and don't want to disparage London too much, but it's a bit of a toxic culture in London teaching hospitals. The big hospitals, big personalities, and can be a difficult place to work in. And that's why I moved to Scotland now, where I'm working in Glasgow at the Golden Jubilee Hospital in Glasgow. And I found it actually it's a lot nicer, a lot more nature there, people a lot more friendly, a lot more resources as well actually compared to England. So that's where I'm continuing my training in thoracic surgery now.
The interesting thing for me as well is like in the energy, and people will question why is Paul Webb interviewing a doctor, and we will get to that stage because really our subject today is about longevity. But one thing I'd like to pick up on here is the lifelong learning, because like being an energy consultant, I think we are, I once was called an energy doctor, and for me that is what we are. We're doctors of energy, advising people what to do. They go into a building and look to see what's wrong with the building, and then advise what to do next. You and I roles in the world as such, they're not similar, because you do a lot more than what we do as such and learning, but we still have to continue learning, it's a lifelong learning, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that you mentioned an important point, that you are constantly having to keep up to date with the latest research, I imagine, and latest innovations happening in your field. Yeah, and legislation. So same with us, so we have to, things are all changing all the time. So when I was in medical school, certain things were the norm, whereas now, different things are coming in the pipeline. So certainly genetics, genomics, personalized medicine. I think the future will be very much more personalized than it is at the moment, because everybody is different and everybody reacts differently to different treatments, and having very bespoke care for someone, I think, would be what the future looks like. It would be very interesting. At the moment we're using a lot of robots as well in surgery, and that's getting better and better, and the technology is getting better and better. But I was thinking as well, like you said, the crossover between energy, climate and healthcare, and I've got an interesting crossover which I was thinking about recently, but we can talk about that when we get there.
Okay, so today really for me is about the longevity side. You've taken some steps and you've taught me a lot about the longevity. What are your challenges from, what's made you start getting into that role? What's been the challenges?
That's a good question. So the reason I got interested in longevity was that most of the patients I operate on, they're actually older patients. And what fascinated me was that, you have one 8-year-old who's fit and healthy, and get through an operation, which is probably the biggest insult that your body would ever take, especially open heart surgery. Worse. Well, it's like more than running a marathon. Your whole body goes through a marathon, whether you're ready for it or not. And our job is, with the anaesthetists, to assess whether they'll be ready for that or not. Sorry, just one second, I just got cut off there. Can you repeat the question again? Sorry. So the challenges you're saying?
Yeah, the challenges of taking what you're doing today into longevity work.
Oh yeah. And why was I interested in longevity? Yeah, so we had some patients who breathe through surgery really well, and it's more than genetics. Some people are genetically robust. So especially people in the Highlands and I think other mountainous regions that you find, or if you like blue zones as well. But they're
we're talking temperatures as well, because they're more subject to the colder temperatures.
Yes. So you have to become, that's a whole other philosophy, that you have to get your body comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that actually causes processes in your body to actually protect you in the long term. If you get too comfortable with being comfortable, then you become soft. Your body becomes weak, and you don't challenge yourself. But one of the most interesting things I found is, I have the huge privilege of seeing patients from the inside. So, we open up, so to speak, the car bonnet, we get to look inside the engine, and, we switch the heart off, we get to look inside the heart, we get to look inside the lungs, and that's a huge privilege. But I can see how a person has lived their life by looking inside you, because a smoker's lungs, a smoker's arteries, they're horrid, they're completely clogged up. There are certain processes which happen due to smoking, and by analogy, by linking that ultimately what we're talking about is pollution. And that's my link basically, because what we have found now is that cancer in non-smokers is growing, and that is a direct analogy, like marker for showing that the world pollution is getting worse, because cancer in non-smokers is growing worse. Your lungs are your filter for everything that you breathe. And most lung cancers happen on the right upper part of your lung, because that is the first place to hit when you take a deep breath in. The right main bronchus, your right upper lobe of the lung is that which receives air first. Then it goes left and the other, and then the lower down in the lungs are less likely to get pollution. So if you have air filter in a car, it collects a lot of dust, you take it off, you see all this black stuff. The same thing you see in your lungs, with soot everywhere. Back to your question, why was I interested in longevity? I was just fascinated as to see how is it that some people live long, healthy, not just long lives, but healthy lives, free from disease, and other people, are disease ridden at 60. Some of it is genetic, but some of it is lifestyle. And someone said famously that a way to think of it is that the way you think of genetics and lifestyle is to think of it, genetics loads the gun, the barrel of your gun with bullets, but it's the lifestyle that pulls the trigger. So you can push back certain things that are going to happen to you by living a very healthy lifestyle. So, eating well, exercising regularly.
That's what I was going to say. So can you correct the genetics?
You can't correct it as such, but you can if you're genetic, it depends what. It's not just as simple as it depends what genetics we're talking about. It depends. There's genetics and there's genetics. There's you have certain genes which are strongly correlated with certain diseases, others which are weakly correlated, and we're still learning a lot about these. We still haven't fully unlocked these things at all. But your poor man's genetic test is your family history. You're more likely to have inherited something which your parents have, and so it's good to know what your parents suffered from, and your grandparents and your brothers and sisters, because you're more likely to have that side of those genes. So if your father had a heart attack at a young age, or had a bypass or a stent operation at a young age, it's likely that you may have inherited that. So then if you know that, then it's more important that you change your lifestyle. So
that would explain why we go through, when we go to see the doctors, he'll ask us loads of questions about the past, and then you'll see another doctor, and then he'll ask the same questions. It's just building that history up, isn't it, and understanding. It's exactly what we do as energy consultants. Sorry, I keep bringing it back to it. We review. So the principles of energy management is to do a review. That's what we do with the doctor route as well. So we review, we realign, then we reduce, and then we report. So I've got my own principles of energy management. Is there principles regarding longevity and what you're looking to do?
Yeah, it's a nice acronym. You've got these 3 R's. We have acronyms as well for ourselves, but my work, I often think is a bit like antique restoration. We're peeling back the layers. We're literally peeling back the layers we cut through, and we're trying to basically bring back the function. If we're doing heart surgery, we're trying to bring back the function of the heart back to what it was before. We're resupplying, if you like, your engine with a new fuel supply if it's a bypass operation, or replacing the valves if it's a valve. And
I love the way you keep referring to it as back as a car. Because then we can all understand that, can't we? Because everyone...
most people understand the mechanics of how a car works generally. So I like to use that with my patients. That's probably what I'm doing here.
I'm not your patient today.
No, I hope not.
Well, I have been your patient when you've sorted my nose out. So tell us, so we know Khalid regarding what he does day to day, working in the hospital, I presume significant amount of surgery all the time, regular surgery. But then there's this other side of you regarding, tell us more about what you're doing there.
Thanks for asking that question, because people will probably wonder what the hell I'm doing. So the other side of me, we have a clinic, basically a longevity clinic called Four-Armed Health. I set up with a former patient of mine called Barry. He's the CEO. He's the big boss behind that. But basically, maybe we get to talk to him. He's into energy. You had a good chat with him the other day. We did sort of go off on a tangent, didn't we, for our conversations. So he discovered, incidentally, that he had high blood pressure, and high blood pressure is one of those things that is such a silent killer. You don't know. It just creeps in so slowly. It's like renal failure. So it's one of these diseases that can affect anyone, but men make the worst patients because we never see the doctor. We don't have any reason to go and see the doctor. We're also think everything's all right. It's all right. I'll be all right. And we just turn a blind eye to things. Whereas women, they may have more reasons to go visit the hospital and other and the healthcare practitioners throughout their lives. With children and periods and so on and so forth. But so we discovered that he had high blood pressure and had to start him on treatment. And he felt that, I think this is important that we set up a clinic where we can check what's wrong with them before they find out what's wrong with them. Catching things early. There's a great benefit in catching things early, whether it's cancer, heart disease, or anything else. At the moment in the NHS, you find out a little bit too late. The NHS at the moment is very reactive rather than proactive. And so we set up a private clinic to enable people to get themselves checked out through full blood tests, genetic tests, heart scans, echo. We're very cardiac centric, so we're heart centric. The company, if you don't mind to say, is called Forearmed Health.
And this is the idea.
www.forearmedhealth.com with a number 4. The idea being that forewarned is forearmed. And so we set that up a few years ago, just before COVID, and it's been going well. We do a lot of kind of medical checks for people, and we've discovered actually a lot of things that, because we have time to sit with the patient for about an hour or however long it takes, and really tease through the history and listen to their concerns. So like you said, the 3 R's, I realised that what I do is I use an acronym called ICE. So when I sit with a patient, I use the ICE model of consultation. I go through their ideas, their concerns, and their expectations. And that really addresses why the patients come to see me. And then we do the full, routine kind of health checks as well. We go through different SIBs and I take full history, full examination, and then the relevant tests. We found, we've helped a lot of people who've discovered cancer, who've discovered heart disease, and things which have been lurking, and we've caught them early, and we've saved lives by doing so. So that's been a great kind of benefit for the community, and it's been very satisfying for us as well.
Yeah, very rewarding, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the main reason why I enjoyed.
You like another 3-letter word acronym that I've developed. It's called the art of energy management. Mm-hmm. So it's awareness. Mm-hmm. It's the reward. So the reward we give the organisation or the ourselves. If you save someone's life, then you're really I feel good about that. And then there's T for training, because it's all about training, whether you're training your patient or you're training yourself. It's very key. All of this is all key. As one of the biggest messages I get over is that the energy experts that listen to this need to keep into them books. You need to keep learning. Don't stop. I've been in this industry 44 years, and I'm always learning.
That's amazing. So we're always teaching. At the end of the day, whether we like it or not, whether we know or we're not, knowingly, unknowingly, we are natural leaders in that field, in your field, in my field, and people are learning. We're listening to the podcast. Whether it's a receptionist, a nurse, or technician, or the patient, we're always educating people, and they're always learning from us, and we're learning from them as well.
If just one person listens to something today, and I'm going to check my blood pressure.
100%. And I've been listening to different podcasts as well, and the amount of times it turns up, like I was listening to BBC World Service, even the Nike running podcast, because I like running, and we hear stories where they pick up lung cancer early. If you smoke, you're allowed to get a CT scan on the NHS, so ask for a CT scan, and if they pick up you have lung cancer early, then they can treat it. It's treatable, but it's the biggest cause of cancer in the UK, and so
my mum used to suffer from the passive, because she used to work with loads of people that smoke. Is passive smoking still?
Yeah, it is. It is an issue. So this is why at the moment the government is trying to push through legislation to ban smoking in public places. So, and one of the reasons of that is that passive smoking, it does increase risk of lung cancer, but not as much as actual smoking. But if you work in a smoky environment, like in the past, that's why they banned smoking in pubs and so on. It does increase it. This is why as I said, lung cancer in non-smokers is going up, because pollution worldwide is going up.
You know, I've just come back from Asia, and I don't think I see people smoking on the streets there. It's so very strict.
Yeah.
And you know, I think we are. I see a guy yesterday lighting a cigarette, and I thought, oh, that looked really out of context.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
But what's happened now is that a lot of youngsters taking up vaping.
Yes, which is just as bad, isn't it?
It's not as bad. So the data shows that smoking is the worst, and in order to try and get people to quit, vaping has helped because it's not as bad. It doesn't contain the tar substances, but ultimately it's not air. Air is what's best for you. It is still hot oils which you're putting into your lungs, and we have seen youngsters who've been smoking for a very long time come with conditions that can damage their lungs, and they can get this thing called a pneumothorax where it pops their lungs. So it all depends on your protoplasm, on what you're made of, and basically some people's lungs are weak and they get damaged very easily. Smoking doesn't just cause lung cancer, it causes COPD and a multitude of other problems, but also it damages your lungs. So you might not get cancer, but you could be in a state where you become dependent on oxygen, become very breathless, easily get infections and things like that, because you only have your lungs a little, I like to call them little bubble wraps, and that's one way to look at it, the little pockets of air, and we only have so many of them. If we destroy them with certain things, then it doesn't really recover. So I think the other ones kind of expand to fill their spaces, but they can cause other problems. So we still don't know the long-term data on vaping, but I would discourage any non-vapor. But it's so popular because they're flavored and it looks cool, and it's but
they look like dragons when they take the thing.
But ultimately it does. I mean, as someone who's who wants to be an athlete or someone who wants to be fit, it will affect your respiration, because ultimately what you're doing is you're affecting the diffusion of oxygen through the membrane into your bloodstream, and that's something that you want to have. You want to have a good coefficient of diffusion. What that means is you want oxygen from the air to quickly get into your bloodstream and get to your muscles and your tissues. And now if you put anything as a barrier there, whether that's vaping oils, coal, nicotine, tar, then you reduce that, and then you become breathless. So you won't find any athletes, hopefully, that are serious vaping or smoking for any significant time, because that will affect that barrier.
We are going to be doing about 4 of these episodes where we're going to be talking on specific topics about the longevity, and again the reason for that is because I the energy consultant, the energy expert of today, we need them to have full longevity going forward, because we've got a big task to do. I've written a book about sustainability in the person, and it's important that we develop good, healthy energy experts. That's sort of one of my parts of what I try to teach as such. And going forward, we've got this task to deliver many years to save our planet, through energy management, sustainability, etc., etc. And I think this then starts to run in parallel, because being and focusing on longevity, you're then focusing on your diet, you're focusing on the exercise. So we're going to be picking up some key points on that over the next 4 weeks or so. Can you talk about some of the subjects we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so again, this links back to I haven't fully answered your question. Why am I interested in longevity as a surgeon? So one of the things that fascinated me is, as I said, why are some people living longer? So they did a study, and I try and back everything with evidence-based, as a doctor, as a surgeon, and a lot of pseudoscience out there as to what works or doesn't work. So it's important to cut through that and look at what actually works. And what fascinates me, for example, is that there's a tribe in Bolivia which have the most elastic arteries in the world. And I said, why is that? So I'm interested in arteries. Why do some arteries spur up, why some don't? And we'll talk about that. Why is it that this tribe in Bolivia, particularly, they study and their arteries are like young people, whereas they're old.
Right.
What is it that they do that differs from? So we'll talk about that. But there's a lot of it's very popular now. The whole longevity topic, longevity medicine itself is kind of and functional medicine, and it's all kind of come in to the fore in the past couple of years. But we'll be talking about the foods that you should eat. But when I look at longevity, I break down your body into systems, into each different components, because it's not one thing. So when we talk about longevity, ultimately looking at health of all those different systems. So we'll look at the longevity of the brain, and how to measure brain health, your eyes, your teeth. So we'll go from top to down, top to bottom. We've talked about lungs already, but we can measure your lung health. How are we going to keep your lungs healthy? Your heart health, your kidneys, your liver health, then your musculoskeletal system, and then the gut biome and how that links into everything else as well. So what I like to do is measure everything and give you a score. Okay, so this is where you're at, and give you a longevity score. And that's what we try and do with Forearm Health, is that we measure everything and say, okay, this is where you're at now, this is what you need to change, and this is where you could be. It's a much better way of looking at it, and then we can give you an actual, longevity age, if you like. It's better than what you get at the gym, where it gives you a metabolic age. That's a very average test. That just looks at your metabolic rate and stuff like that. But this is much more sophisticated, and lots of other people have got their own algorithms of how they give you a score, if you like, a longevity score. That's what we're going to talk about.
And we're going to be talking about the diets and things like that.
Yeah, 100%. So basically, your diet is very, very important for maintaining your heart health and your brain health and everything else, and linking that with the gut biome. For example, foods that are high in colour have lots of different food sources, are balanced with carbohydrates and legumes and proteins and fats and everything. But the research now has gone round so that now full fat milk, butter, eggs, they're fine for you, everything in moderation. Whereas previously people thought,
don't eat butter. Oh, you can eat butter. Don't eat margarine. Don't eat. It's.
I think.
Do you not think sometimes the industry is a bit complex and confusing?
Yeah. The thing is,
because it's conflicting all the time.
Yeah. There's lots of. The thing is that in the past, because the food industry has been tied to the government, has been tied to big pharma, and then you've got the sugar industry, which have a lot of money as well. So it muddies the waters a lot, and you don't know what studies are funded by whom. That I think having a wholesome diet can get problematic, and especially if you go to a shop now or a corner, if you want to quickly get some food, not very many healthy options out there for you.
No.
And what we try and do, because a lot of our clients are taxi drivers, and we actually specifically looking after them and say, look, we need to give you some healthy options, because sitting in a car all day and driving can be
going from A to B and just putting into a garage or whatever. There's plenty of chocolate there, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of fast food, but not many healthy options. And the healthy options end up being more expensive, and you're not tempted to do that.
Yeah, I struggle sometimes being a vegetarian. There's not many vegetarian opportunities.
Yeah, so the thing is that, so if you want to live long, you could have a slightly a restricted calorific diet, and if you want a healthy heart, you could try it for the vegetarian option, but then you would actually be cutting out, you're reducing like vitamin A, D and K, E and K, and
I include fish in my so fish. I do eat fish.
Fish is fantastic, but especially fish oils are so good for you. But you may consequently then suffer with slightly weaker bones and muscles.
Right.
So it's getting the right balance. I think personally,
What if I drink a lot of milk? I'm not vegan.
Yeah, you could. So vegan would. Might be a bit controversial, but vegan would be very difficult. That if you want a strong, healthy body in your old age that's not prone to breaking, then it's much more difficult to do that with vegan. You would have to accept, okay, for ethical reasons, you want to be a vegan, then that's absolutely fine. And you can try and take your essential vitamins.
It all goes back to the balance of things, doesn't it? Yeah. Everything in moderation. Yeah. That's what my dad always used to say. Everything in moderation, that's what we need.
100%.
In everything you do.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So let's talk about, just touch on tennis. Because obviously we met about 6 months ago regarding the tennis. Well, we met on a networking thing through a close friend, and obviously I knew your dad. And then we started playing tennis. And the reason why you promote tennis, can we talk about that?
So racket sports, all racket sports have proven that actually you live longer if you play racket sports. So they've done cohort studies and so that people who play racket sports on a regular basis end up living longer. And there may be many reasons for that, but one of the reasons it's just cardiovascular fitness, but there's something about that hand-eye coordination and that brain-eye and arm coordination that you get with table tennis, with squash and badminton, that is beneficial for us. And your muscles are actually neurochemical factories. They secrete neurotransmitter, noradrenaline, and these are actually important for brain health. The other part of my life I haven't talked to you about, but I'll just put it out there, is that I was diagnosed with ADHD 4 years ago, and so that's one of the reasons I'm very much interested in the brain health side of things, in mental health. But it's also why I'm doing other things, because people with ADHD are often more creative. They often think outside the box, and they can come up with unique, different solutions to problems that have not been thought of with the two. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'm really looking forward to the ongoing conversations. But before we go from there, I always put, and you're going to get to know this over the next 4 episodes, I always put my interviewees on the spot. I don't know, have you listened to any of my stuff?
Not yet.
The answer to there's a bit of a smile there. He's been listening to extracts. So, at this stage in the interview, I like to put you on the spot, and I like to say, is there anything you can give back to our industry, to the energy expert, to anyone who's listening today? Is there any advice you can give to them as a takeaway?
About health or energy or
health?
Health, yeah. So any advice to them? I'd say. So you put me on the spot now. I think the most important thing, if I had to pick one thing, the most important thing, I'd call it movement.
Right.
Because exercise itself has certain bad connotations. It has, PE and and pain and when you think of exercise, think of hard work. But if you think of movement, it's not so bad. And I would encourage everybody to move more. Right. And the steps on your phone can help do that, because that tells how much you're moving. But just go out and go for a walk if you don't feel like exercising. But if you've moved more, then that will help your longevity, and that will help your brain and everything. But if you don't move, if you remain sedentary, that's when problems. That's when the joints start creaking, and that's when problems arise.
So I know when we've talked about this before, you've always mentioned to me about just maintaining your strength in your body, and that's if you can't do nothing, you can do the get up and walk or whatever. But maintaining that strength, because when we fall over and
that's a good question. That's a good point you mentioned now. So there's 2 camps, isn't there, in exercise? One is all about heart health and cardiovascular, and the other. So you got your people who are running and then not doing weights, and then you have people who are just going on the weights. And I think a hybrid approach is important, but strength is so important. So I have a strength coach, a personal coach who I use, and the model we use is the starting strength model, where we see exercise as medicine, and we give the muscles, we need to give the muscles what we call the minimum effective dose to grow. So our philosophy is that we go for a heavy weight but low repetitions, and that gives the muscle just enough stimulus to grow without causing pain and injury. And using the correct technique, this has been transformational for me. I found myself growing stronger, lifting heavier, and also looking better. But that's not why we do it. But it's a natural consequence of what we do, and remaining free from injury. As you age, every year you lose 1% muscle mass, especially after you're at peak muscle mass about 28, but after the age of 40 things start going down. So you need to build up a bank of muscle and tissue and everything. You will still grow even if you're approaching it late. So it's never too late to start exercising. But I think a hybrid approach is very important. And gone are the days of no pain, no gain, and delayed onset muscle soreness. I mean, people in the gym still going to fatigue, where they're pushing too hard, doing as many reps as possible, but then they can't function the next day because they're in pain. So I think a better philosophy is just do a little bit, but lift heavy, so you give stimulus to the muscles, but then the next day you can still lift because you haven't broken anything, you haven't fatigued the muscle too much.
You haven't ripped it.
Exactly, yeah, you don't need to rip it. That's the thing. You just need to give it what we call the minimum effective dose and stimulus to grow, so that over the week you've actually lifted more than if you went really hard one day.
And I know your dad doesn't do the weight training such, but he plays tennis.
Yeah.
He drags us. I can assure he's on the phone to me every day. Are you playing tonight? You're playing tonight. And I feel amazing. And the eye to ball sort of
hand-eye coordination.
I think it's amazing because first couple of days of playing, I play tennis, but it just gets better and, better and better. And I've had a month off because of my arm and been away. But I feel as though it's still improved.
That's a great point you make, and I'm a great believer in this, that neurons that fire together wire together. And this is we're beginning to understand the neural circuits in the brain more and more now, and this fascinates me, so that the more you practice something, the better you get. And that means that it comes with electronics and circuitry, so that the circuits in the brain get reinforced and they get better and better the more you do it. So this is how you can still learn to juggle and other things as you get older. That all actually helps your mental health and your executive function. It helps you focus. So doing balance activities reinforces connections between the cerebellum and the back of the brain and the prefrontal cortex at the front of the brain. So that can really help things, brushing with your left hand, skateboarding, and all these other skills that we can try and do will actually.
And do you practice things like that?
Yeah, I try to.
Do you play tennis sometimes with your left hand, don't you?
Yeah. So I find myself more ambidextrous. So I do that in surgery as well. So I'll take a situation. I'm very comfortable with my left hand, but the more you do it, the better you get. I know some people would probably not like that, but they know, how dare you? But no, you have to basically. It's good to get out of trouble in certain situations where you can't take a stitch with right hand. You can just take it with the left hand, and if you've got that confidence, if you've got the ability to do it, then you should do it.
Wow, that's amazing. Khalid, I would like to say thank you very much for the day. It's been the sun's still perfect, and we're about to go and play tennis, which I'm really looking forward to. That's the highlight of my evening.
There was a draw yesterday, wasn't it? So
I would debate that because I didn't beat you with two guys, but let's we'll put that one on hold. But you did beat me about a month ago, so I've improved, haven't I?
So, you have got better. You've been practicing.
Yeah, behind the scenes. But no, thank you very much for today. I've really enjoyed it. And please, you and your family, stay safe in these times.
Thank you.